In this episode, we welcome back David Davidson, an outstanding Western author, also called D. Preston Davidson, now an award author of Western novels, but he's also a screenplay writer and a family man. David's work stands out for its fusion of fiction and historical facts. He's not afraid to explore hard truths, as his writing often incorporates social commentary, moral dilemmas, and psychological depth, uncommon in traditional Western novels, giving the genre his own spin and shape. And here he is to share his new experiences. So welcome to Writing Inspiration with Marquee Books. Hello, David. Long time no see.
Yeah, well, it's been a while, but appreciate you having me on again.
I'm happy that you're back. So, David, tell us what's new. Did you publish a new book or start something new?
Well, I'm working on finishing up a book that I'm titling Putney's Crusade, and the subtitle is The Knights of the Rising Sun. And it's about, if you know my character, he's a deputy U.S. Marshal in 1870s, thereabout, Texas. And he's been assigned to identify and arrest, so they can be prosecuted, the leaders of a KKK-style group called the Knights of the Rising Sun. And it's based on historical fact. I mean, there was a group called the Knights of the Rising Sun, but I kind of moved their location from a place called Jefferson, Texas, to Fort Worth, Texas. I didn't really move them. I just moved their activities because they kind of got broken up in Jefferson, and they're trying to reconstitute in Fort Worth. So he's assigned to identify and arrest these people and bring them to justice.
Okay. That sounds great. I'm very in tune with your style. I see that you're still with the historical fiction, as they call it.
Yeah. Everything that I do is it's fiction, but there's a basis of history in everything I do. So I use a lot of historical characters when I can find the appropriate ones, and I use fictional characters. Naturally, my main characters are fictional, and but I base it on historical things that happen. Like I say, I may move things around a little bit, but generally speaking, it's all historically accurate.
Yeah. So tell me, what else is new?
Well, recently I had the last book that y'all did the cover for me, Putney's Law. It's been doing pretty well. The sales have been, they're good. Yeah, I'm not complaining.
I'm happy to hear that.
I entered, and the book cover is just great. I entered the manuscript for that book into the Wild Bunch Film Festival in Tucson, and I entered that same manuscript into the Cowpoke International Film Festival held in Electra, Texas. And also I entered a book trailer for one of my other books, and I entered a screenplay, a short screenplay based out of some scenes from a different book. And I was very fortunate. I won awards in everything that I submitted for both the Wild Bunch and for the Cowpoke.
Wow,
and
congratulations.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And then at the end of the Cowpokes, they have an award that they give out for Cowpoke of the Year. And they awarded that to me, and I certainly wasn't expecting it because, honestly, I'm not really a cowboy. I just write cowboy stuff. So,
were there really many participants?
There were a lot of participants. I guess in Electra there were probably 150 or so people showed up, but there were a lot of entrants that didn't show up that were recognized and stuff. But not everybody can travel all the time. So it was a great little film festival. Electra, Texas is a small town west of Wichita Falls, but they have this beautiful old theater that they're refurbishing and trying to get it back to its original glory. And so that's where they have this film festival.
Fascinating. So the film festival like only presented manuscripts, though not movies in itself?
Oh no, there were many films and it was 3 days of films, one after the other, from 10 a.m. till 7 p.m. And they had a concert from a gal that's kind of an up and comer in country music, and they had some couple of seminars on filmmaking and writing and stuff. And I was part of a kind of a roundtable discussion on writing, and especially novels. And so, it was an all-encompassing thing.
Okay. Well, at least you got something from this. I really hope this was a great publicity for you. Did the sales of your other books change too?
Well, they've been pretty steady. In fact, I was just working on a mailer sending out 2 books. I got this last book and the book before that. Somebody contacted me and ordered directly from me. But my sales of all the books have been pretty steady. I think I'm going to change my profile on Amazon and put in all stuff about the awards and things like that, and maybe change up a few things and hopefully boost sales a little bit. But I'm looking forward to finishing this book, and I'm looking forward to y'all doing another great cover for me.
Of course. We'll do our best. Are you planning to go to a new event soon?
Right now, what I'm doing, besides trying to finish this book, the short screenplay that I told you about, I'm trying to get a short film made from that. And like I said, it will be from a couple of scenes of my first book. And my whole idea of that is, and I actually got this idea from a film at the festival in Tucson, because at the end, the director had a thing on there. It says, if you want to want to get more books from the author, and it listed the Amazon website where they could get books. So
I think there's lately filming houses on Austin. I think they can film the movie.
Well, there's like I say, I've made several contacts in these film festivals, and so I'm talking to a director. I've got a guy that's agreed to produce it if I can come up with the funds. I've actually got a couple of directors are interested in it. I got to work on getting some sound people and cinematographers, and then of course a location and cast and stuff. So it's not something that'll be happening overnight, but my whole idea will be to get this out to the film festivals, and it'll be kind of a long book trailer actually for my books. And then I'm going to put it on my YouTube channel, which I don't have much on there now, but I'm going to put it on a YouTube channel and try and boost the sales. It's all about boosting the sales of my books. It's not, I want to make a good film too, but mainly I'd like to boost the sales of my books and boost the recognition of them, and then get somebody like Taylor Sheridan to make the films. Hey, if you're going to dream, you got to dream big.
Oh, I agree. And you're in the perfect location, to be honest. You're already in Texas, and basically you have to film basically there. All the scenes can be done there.
Yeah. There's several movie locations, Old West movie sites in Texas, and I'm looking at one down in Llano, Texas, and there's another down in Blanco, Texas, and there's a couple up closer to where I live in Weatherford. So there's some good locations, and there's a lot of good actors. They're not your Kevin Costners or anything like that, but they're good actors, and I think I can if I get the right people to direct and do the sound and cinematography, I think I can do a pretty good have a pretty nice little film.
At least for a pilot. At least for a pilot, and then you can to see if you can get funds from others after the pilot is done.
Yeah. So, but still, it's all about the books. I'm trying to. My wife tells me that there's going to be, after this book, there'll be 4 more books in the series. So I'm glad she has that confidence. I don't know.
Oh, wow. Well, at least you're busy.
I had a lot of good reactions from the book that y'all did the cover on. I left it open ended, and people want to know what's going to happen to my main character. Is he gonna go, and he got married in the book, and they want to know if he's going to go back. He's out in the wilds right now, and they want to know if he's going to go back to his wife or if he's going to go rogue outlaw. So I kind of left it there where it go either way. So, but this book I'm writing now is a prequel to that, and kind of fills in some gaps of that book, because that one that y'all did for me, I refer back to events that I'm currently writing right now, because I've had this book in mind for a while. I actually wanted to write it first, but people were bugging me. My secondary main character is Deidre O'Neill, and it's my main character, Nahum Putney's love interest. And I had written a book that kind of left it open-ended as to what happened to her. So everybody was bugging. I guess everybody loves a good love story. So everybody was bugging me about that. So I went ahead and wrote Putney's Law first, but I refer back to events that happen in what will be Putney's Crusade coming up. So I had all my notes and stuff all written.
I can see something a little complicated here. If you were to do the pilot and present the idea for show, film, or wherever, how would you do it? As I see, the timeline is a bit complicated right now.
Well, if I could, in a perfect world, what I would do is start with the second book. That's a prequel to the first book. My editor, when I wrote the first book, my character is very staunch and unbending, and my editor said I needed to write a prequel that explained how he became that way.
Then wait, that means you're writing in reverse? Like, first book is the future, the second is more in the past, and the third is even more in the past, and the fourth even more in the past?
No, the way it works is the first one, I've got the first one, and then the second one, it starts off where the first one ended, but then there's a long flashback, and then it ends back where it comes back to the story where it ended in the first. And then this current book I'm writing, well, then there was Putney's Reckoning, and that took place right after Putney's Secret. So you had Putney's War, Putney's Secret, Putney's Reckoning, and then I jumped 15 years in the future to Putney's Law. And now that I'm coming back to 14 years to Putney's Crusade. Got to read the Ford. Got to read the Ford.
I can see that. Wow, this is actually your fifth book.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I love the writing, and just recently I've just been real busy with a lot of things, just stuff that comes up and whatnot. I've just been real busy, so I hadn't really been able to devote the time that I wanted to, but I think I'm about probably 2/3 of the way through. I finally figured out how because it's kind of a mystery. I mean, it's not really a mystery to the reader of who these people are. The mystery is how my main character, because he doesn't know who they are, so how he's going to identify them and how he's going to make the arrest of this group of KKK style.
Well, they are hooded for a reason.
Yeah, that's a fact. Now, and in this book, I describe. I don't have any lynchings, but I do describe some violence against freedmen or former slaves. The whole context of the book is that the racist group, they are trying. There's a law that if these people, if the freedmen abandon their land, then they can come in and pick it up for pennies on the dollar. And the more land that they have, then the more that they can control voting. If they can move these people out of a certain county, then they can control the voting. And
I have heard that saying plotlining before, but it was more, I think it's not a movie like that. In a rural town, how they wanted to, make the citizens of the town to like go away, so the immigrants stay and the immigrants control everything.
Well, this is the actually, it's a bunch of former Confederates mostly, and they're still sore about losing the Civil War, and they want to at the time that I'm writing this, and I don't want to get into any modern day politics because things change. But at the time that these stories take place, right now, the Republicans are in control of the Texas government. And these people want to have Democrats take over control of the Texas government. Things have all got twisted around as we progressed up till today. But that's the way it was back then. And so they want to push out the Republican pro-freedmen, pro-reconstruction government and move in what would be the antithesis to that. And so that they can change laws for voters' rights and stuff like that. It's actually kind of topical to some things happening today, but there's a parallel.
Once you read story, you realize that basically everything has been done and everything will happen again, one way or another, with another form.
Yeah, there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah, basically it's just the same event with another label, if you really think about it.
Yeah, it is. So, but I thought I felt like it was a story that you don't see in a lot of what people refer to as Western genre. You don't see that sort of social
commentary. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't see that in most Westerns. And that's why I'm trying to make my whole idea is to make my books historically accurate and make people think. I don't want it to just be a shoot 'em up,
Well, actually, what you say about the Western genre like that, actually it makes sense, because usually those books are like the 1850s, 1890s. And on those times, laws weren't that, was well established in those parts of the country. So it's logical that most of those stories don't have a very political message.
Right. It kind of goes in steps. If you look at Putney's Secret, that is a story of the really vengeful, hard Western expansion with settlers and outlaws and people taking justice into their own hand.
That sounds quite like a very normal Western story in general.
It is, but again, I mixed some other stuff in there. There's pretty good love story. Then in Putney's War, he becomes a deputy marshal, and there's a story there about real justice, about doing real justice to people. And then in the next one, Putney's Reckoning, he has to come to terms with his own violent nature, and he has to tamp that down. But he also, he brings a reckoning to the outlaws, but he also realizes that there's a reckoning at some point going to come to him. And then in this book, he's starting to kind of get that concept a little bit better. And we already talked about the social commentary on that. And then in Putney's Law, then that's about his love interest is charged with murder. So he's investigating and trying, there's a conspiracy against her. And in that, I actually bring in, and this one, it takes place in 1884, and I actually bring in a female attorney to represent her in this trial, which that was almost like unheard of, So just try and mix things up a little bit and just show a different side of the West than most people think.
Well, yeah, I suppose it was possible. I do think there were women studying medicine or stuff like that at that time, but things like got regress a bit after the 30s.
Well, women, at that time, of course, they didn't have the right to vote, and there were women being accepted into medical schools and law schools and things, but they weren't so much accepted in those professions once that they got out of school. And like I explained in Putney's Law, this woman is an attorney, but she mostly deals with things like wills and real estate and stuff like that, because nobody wants a criminal attorney that's a female, because mostly females aren't brought to court anyway, and it was just I think just a little bit different take, and when people read the book, they understand it a little bit different.
Okay.
So,
that's interesting.
And she's a recurring character. This attorney is also, I've got a lot of recurring characters, but she is actually a character that Putney saved from captivity with the Comanches back in a previous book. So I brought her back. And one thing that is that the character Nahum Putney, see, he actually doesn't have to work. He had investments that his father made and a friend made for him and stuff. And he's, in the terms of those times, he's pretty well off, but he has taken on this role as a law enforcer in order to make amends for a life that he led. There's 5 years that, if you read the series, there's 5 years that nothing is explained except that he wasn't a very good man. So now then he's having to repay society for these things that he did.
Are you planning after Crusade to revisit the 15-year time skip, or do you want to go after Law?
I'm probably going to move forward about 5 or 6 years. I haven't really planned anything, but I kind of want to work my way back up to Law in a couple of books, and then go kind of get the readers used to that, and then kind of skip that and probably wind up.
Well, if you accept a humble idea, maybe on the road of Steel Law, which is where people are right now, like waiting what happened after, maybe making some little scenes at the end of each book, going back to that timeline, like showing that everything on that book was like a memory. So they take it like that we are still in that world. Oh, I mean, in that timeline,
Yeah,
in
I,
Afterlaw, and you
I
can
understand.
send some little tidbits or some plot points that will be after law, so they are excited to see what happened when you finally reach that timeline again.
Yeah, no, I follow what you're saying, and I may look at that. I think if I get to the ninth book in this series, I think I'm going to make Putney an older man and retired, kind of he has to come out of retirement sort of thing.
Just please don't make him a grouchy old man without family or and being alone. That's like
Oh no,
super.
no,
That's like super used right now in every
yeah,
sequel of every hero story of this type of thing.
no, I don't intend to do that. It would, as I said, and I don't want to give away any, because I make notes all the time about what I'm going to write, so I don't want to give away too much. But in Putney's Law, he gets married, and uh, his love interest, Deidre O'Neill, is actually pregnant. So they're going to have a family, and I intend, and that's part of his own way of re-entering society. Because things are, by 1884, things are getting more civilized. The railroads have come. Uh, More people come, with businesses and things that are changing the whole look of the West. And I mean, there's still those periods that there were bad things happening, but not like it was right after the Civil War. Because a lot of people don't know this, but right after the Civil War, there was like a depression or a recession, you might say.
I think after
And
every war happens.
yeah, and the thing about it is after the war, you had all these Confederate soldiers that were kind of displaced, and you had all these Union soldiers, and they're coming back, to their hometowns and things, and there's no jobs for them. And so that's when a lot of these people started moving west. A lot of these men, they were suffering from what we now know as PTSD. That's why. So that's why there was a lot of violence, because nobody understood what was happening. I mean,
Even
these
today, even
yeah,
today it happens. Ex-soldiers rarely can reintegrate themselves in society thanks to PTSD or lack of talent in other areas other than battle. So they became mercenaries in other countries. It happens all the time.
yeah, and that's back then it was nobody even recognized it for what it was, and there was another political thing there. In the Union, when they started the draft, if you had enough money, you could buy your way out of the draft. You didn't, if you paid, you paid somebody to take your place.
I think in the World War II, it happens too.
Yeah. Uh, so now then you have these guys coming back, and the guys that didn't go to war, weren't drafted or anything, they don't, they've got all the jobs. And so you have all these Union soldiers, and you have the Confederate soldiers that are totally displaced. They've lost their property. A lot of them have lost their families, and they're all pretty bitter, about life in general. And so that's why a lot of the violence that occurred in the Western expansion, that's why it occurred, because you had men that knew violence, and that was a way of life with them. They had experienced it, and they couldn't stop that cycle.
Yeah, I get it.
So,
Okay,
so
okay.
that's what a lot of my stuff is about. Is when you read the books, you find, because I explain some of that stuff, and you understand that. And not that I'm excusing anybody for anything that if they ever did. I'm not excusing Jesse James for doing what he did. Okay? But I'm saying that there's a way to understand what happened to these men, whether they were Union or Confederate, doesn't make any difference. There's a way to understand that, and that's one thing that I try to get across in my writing.
In the end, everyone is human, so yeah, everyone can understand, can get to understand anyone if they just try.
Yeah, that's true. So, but it's a hard road to hoe sometimes, and that's what Putney has to deal with. Putney has very violent tendencies because of things that happened earlier in his life.
Actually, that reminds me the phrase of hell is pavement. It's built on good intentions.
The road to
hell is built over good intention. I think that's how it said the phrase.
No, and Putney's trying. It's just sometimes he has to have other people help him with his trek, let's say. So he meets all these other people, and the stories he's always coming in contact with other people that are helping him heal, I suppose would be a good word.
I can see how the story goes from that point on. Well, I have this question. Since the last time we talked, has your vision changed in any way about how to do your work? I mean, as a writer.
Oh no, I still, there's plotters and there's pansters, and I'm still a panster. I know where the story starts and I know where it ends. It's just I write it as I go along, and it's just like I just a couple of nights ago had this epiphany, I suppose, of how he's going to how the Putney, and he has a partner, actually has two partners, how they are going to identify and affect the arrest of these leaders of this group. But I didn't know exactly for a while how it would be done, but I figured it out, and I hope it doesn't come off too similar to what he did in Putney's Reckoning. So that's something I have.
How many times do you revisit your old books to get certain plot points again?
Constantly. I keep a copy of all the books handy all the time, and I've got little stick-it tabs, little colorful stick-it tabs all through the books and things, so that I can refer back to them. And a lot of times, like I go, oh man, what was that character's name? Because I got to get it right. And what did that character look like? If I'm bringing a character back in, or if I'm referring back to that character, I got to think, oh man,
Do you?
So yeah, I keep them right.
Do you have one of your books with the notes just to watch, just to see?
Yeah. Well, I've got this one. I don't know if you can see it up there. But, here's one. This was Putney's Secret, but I actually screwed up the cover on it, and they gave me this generic title, but the interior of the book is correct. But you can see I've got all these little tabs sticking out and stuff, and I keep them with me, right when I'm writing, right, so I can just reach over and grab them. And
at least you're using that defective book.
yeah, right. That's it cost me. It didn't cost me very much. I mean, it was an author's copy. I'm not going to hold it up again, but it's got a banner across it that says "Not for resale," so it wasn't going to go anyplace anyway. And but it's good. It makes it really nice because it's not a book that I'm mangling, with tabs and making notes inside the margins and stuff like that. I can mark it up and don't have to worry about it. But I constantly refer back to my books, make sure that my characters are right. and bring memories back. And it's weird because I got all these characters that are always rolling around in my head, and sometimes really significant characters. They're not main characters, but they're significant in the moving the plot. I can't recall their names. So if I don't have one of these books handy, if there's a memory or something, like one thing at one time before the 5 missing years that I talked about, he gets married to another woman, and she had given him a cigarette case. He's real persnickety. He buys his cigarettes out of New York. He has them shipped to him because they're ready rolled. And back that time, that was a luxury item. Mm-hmm. But she buys him an engraved cigarette case, and every once in a while, he takes that engraved case out, and it brings back the memory of this wife that I won't tell you what happens because it'll kill the plot.
Well, I mean, he's already married to another one, so we can more or less guess what is going to happen.
Well, read the book and so that's,
Hey, it doesn't matter.
I would tell you.
In the end, yeah, in the end.
I would tell you, but I don't want the people that are listening to this know. I want them to buy the book.
Don't worry. In the end, what matters is how it happened.
Yeah.
At least that's how I think. I know there's people that are allergic to spoilers, that get super intense with that and get angry and violent even. But personally, I really don't care. In the end experience you get with watching that, it will be yours.
Yeah. Well, I do tell people about Putney's secret is that they can't blame me if they end up crying. That's their own emotional input.
That sounds like a great one of those messages for like, oh damn, I forgot the word. Forget it. I forgot the word. In any case, do you have any new advice for new writers now that the time has passed and you have won these awards, etc.?
Well, if you writing and getting a book out is more accessible now than it ever has been. If you want to independently publish your own books, but if you're gonna get people to buy your books, you can't write crap. You have to edit it. You have to look at, and your stories have to be real. Whether it's total fiction, if it's some sci-fi thing that happens, far, far away, it doesn't make any difference. The story has to be real. And when people read it, if they start running into a bunch of errors and things, because you didn't get an editor or you didn't do good editing yourself, they're going to stop reading and they won't buy another book. And they're going to give you bad reviews.
My editor told me the same thing.
So if you're going to do it, you have to commit to it. I belong on a lot of Facebook groups with Western writers and things. And once in a while, I'll pick up another book of a Western writer. I don't do it too much, and I can explain that reasoning, but
no, it's fine. I get it. It's better not to influence. It's better not to influence your style too much by another author.
Right, but every once in a while I've done, and I've read some that are just truly grammatically terrible, and then I've read a couple of ones that historically and not even just historically, but physically, if not impossible, highly improbable.
You said physically painful to read?
Well, yeah, that too. No, I mean, the characters do things, that are pretty much, if not impossible, improbable. Bullets don't go around corners. You know what I'm saying? And
oh, yeah.
so
you have to get your physics right.
Yeah, my advice to anybody that wants to do it is first do it, but take your time, learn your craft, understand that you sometimes need help, and make your book the best that you can make it. And don't just, because like I say, if you go on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or any of these other sites, I mean, you have more access to books now than any time before. And it's so in order to make yours stand out, you have to be you have to put the work in. Now, whether the story is good, that's for other people to decide. But you should at least make the story as good as you can.
And easier to read as possible, if possible
Right.
too.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because recently on Marky Books, we started doing proofreading and formatting for others. So I have seen my first share of, well, disasters.
Yeah, I know. So again, I might pick up a book by. I've got some friends that are some authors. I have one friend that's actually a pretty famous and successful author, but he writes the more into the spy novel sort of things, and espionage or the big conspiracy things, modern day stuff. So I'll read some of his stuff or books like that, because what's happening in those books isn't so much similar to what I'm writing, so it's not going to bleed over. I mean, you're not going to see any airplanes in my book or things like that. So
Yeah.
and it makes it difficult because in traveling, back then, like in the current book I'm writing, there's a railroad in Waco, Texas, but there's really not much of a rail there. It runs between Waco and Galveston, but other than that, there's not many railroads until the mid 1870s. So
Yeah, the construction
everything,
wasn't easy.
well, and it was the construction wasn't easy, and you had a war interrupted everything, so it took a while for all that stuff, and things just didn't happen. I mean, even today, if you look at the Wright, from when the Wright brothers flew their first plane till now, what we fly, who would have ever conceived of it if you lived back then? And so when I read modern day books, it doesn't bleed in. I don't worry about it bleeding into my books as much as if I read another Western, or I might read something written, many years before that, like The Last of the Mohicans, something like that, or Moby Dick, that doesn't really conflict with what I'm doing, doesn't conflict in my brain, although it informs me, because those are things that happened in the past, so I can always call back on those times. Spam callers.
By the way, how did your family react? Were they with you when you won the award?
Yeah, my wife goes with me to the film festivals, and she was with me in Electra, and it was pretty exciting. We had a great little celebration afterwards. A lot of friends and things that I've made in the film industry, the independent film industry, and it's a thriving community. There's a lot of great filmmakers out there. Unfortunately, they're like authors. They're just not everybody's going to make it to the top, but everybody's trying to, and so they make good stuff.
But don't worry, for what I know, the winds are changing, and maybe Texas will become eventually a good place to make movies now that people are not really liking California that much lately.
Well, and the legislature here in Texas, I think the Senate, well, I know the Senate has already passed it, and I think the House has resolved it and come together, but they've got, if it's not done, I think it will be done, where there will be a lot more state money to fund films that are made in Texas and that in order to get the money, you have to use people that live in Texas, like for your set builders and your sound people and stuff like that. One of the requirements is you have to use people. You can't ship somebody in from California to build the set. You got to have people that are here. So
I mean, I understand that, but it's a little bit weird. I mean, there are some positions that everyone should be able to do. But I guess it's a way to, at least for the first stages, to inspire a new generation of filmmakers. But yeah, it's not a bad idea, but a little bit awkward around the edges.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not, like I say, the bigger parts of the movie, the directors and your actors and things like that, don't necessarily have to, but, they don't. The whole thing is they want to bring jobs. They want to use that money to bring jobs to people that already live in Texas.
That's actually a very good idea.
Georgia did, much the same thing, and Louisiana's doing much the same thing. That's why you're seeing so many more films made on location, because states are realizing.
I completely agree. Decentralization is the best way to go.
Anyway.
Well,
so there you have it. So just one last pick: buy my books.
Thank you so much, David, and for the advices and everything, and for this lovely conversation.
Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Hope we'll see you again soon, and maybe we have new stories to share.
All right, tell that artist to get busy on that book cover.
Don't worry, it's almost ready. Maybe in some days.
All right.
Have a nice day.
Thank you very much.
Bye, David.
Adios.
David has gone by a lot since the last time we saw him. Thanks to him, we got reminded some lessons. As someone whose specialty we already know, he taught us the importance of writing fiction that felt real. Making our worlds as real as possible, no matter the genre, will always bring positive results. And even if you write stories about chaotic and different worlds, some sense of familiarity will always hug the readers. And lastly, just write what you want. Don't write to trends, write what matters to you. No matter how niche the topic, someone will love and appreciate that work, if it was written with love and care. A very on-the-nose advice, but it can be more difficult to do than we thought, as sometimes we tend to go to the popular things just to get an inkling of success, instead of trusting our instincts. Well, thanks for joining us today. If you find this episode inspiring, like, subscribe, and share this video. And give more keyboards a try in the link below. Have a nice day and see you next week. Bye!